Hit me.
From Studio A in Arcata, behind the redwood curtain, it's time for...
Succotash.
Succotash Clips, the original Comedy Soundcast featuring snippets from comedy...
Soundcasts.
And here's your host from up the coast, practically unknown outside of comedy soundcasting, Comedy Soundcast Soundcaster, Tyson Saner.
Saluton, estas me, Tyson Saner, your host for this early December holiday season edition of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. And have I got clips for you? As I'm typing this, I'm noticing that have I got clips for you feels like a question. But if I were to put a question mark at the end of that sentence, it feels like it should sound more like, have I got clips for you? I understand it's a rhetorical question, but I never really stopped to think about what it looks like on paper. Or in this case, on a computer monitor. Have I got clips for you? Of course I do. This is a clips edition of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. It would be misleading and frankly weird if I didn't. I've got clips from Maltin on Movies, Crystal Clear the Podcast, Master Manual, High Content Pod, Unstructured, Shank, and Weird Adults with Little Esther. We've also got a double dose of Raging Moderate Will Durst's Burst of Durst segment, and a reading from the website of our still fairly new sponsor, trumpoetry.com. Ready? Let's go. Before we dive into the clippage, we've got our first burst of Durst. Because I didn't record a Thanksgiving episode for this year, you didn't get to hear the Thanksgiving edition of our Burst of Durst segment. Well, you're about to hear it now. This one is called Thanksgiving 18, in which our intrepid correspondent takes off his gloves and socks to count his blessings.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words about Thanksgiving, which this year cannot come at a better time, conveniently following one of the most contentious elections in our nation's history, and only 711 days before the next most contentious election in our nation's history. The fourth Thursday of November is truly the best of American holidays, a non-denominational feast of friends, family, food, and football, featuring 6-story helium balloons on rope tethers jousting with lamp posts. Where's the bad? So unless you're a turkey that has recently been force-fed a glut of high-protein grain, there is much to be thankful for. And this is just a short list for what we here at Dursco Industries are thankful for. For the fact that the Pilgrims chose not to feast on squirrel, weasel, raccoon, or possum. For Turner Classic Movies and their obsession with early Barbara Stanwyck movies. For Donald Trump's unceasing efforts to provide daily comedic fodder on an hourly basis, minutely. For a wife who understands that any decision made before the consumption of a third cup of coffee is not binding by custom or law. For perfectly churned 6-4-3 double plays on bright summer afternoons with a Sheboygan brat in one hand and a cold anchor steam in the other. For the state of Florida. They can't drive, they can't count. It's time to circumcise America. Just cut Florida off at the Georgia border and kick it into the Caribbean. 49 states. It'll still work on the flag. 7 rows of 7 stars. And finally, for the newly elected 116th Congress. Now that they control the House, it'll be interesting to see just who the Democrats have bigger fights with, the GOP or themselves. For Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, I'm Will Durst. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody!
All right, into the clips. Our first selection this evening is Maltin on Movies by Leonard Maltin and Jesse Maltin. Its description reads, legendary film critic Leonard Maltin and his daughter Jessie are the ultimate movie fans. They love talking about movies, especially with people who share their enthusiasm. From living legends like Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, and Quincy Jones, to such contemporary artists as Amy Adams, Viggo Mortensen, Laura Dern, and Bryan Cranston. You'll meet all kinds of interesting people and hear their recommendations of unsung movies you ought to know. This clip is from an episode that was an interview with Dennis Miller, released on November 2nd, 2018. Its description reads, he's won 5 Emmy Awards and is a longtime radio host and political pundit. But guess what? Dennis Miller is also a diehard film buff who revels in watching Turner Classic Movies. Jesse was blown away as Leonard and Dennis started comparing notes on favorite films and the people in them. He's the same sharp-witted comic he's always been, but this time the focus is on movies. Excelsior! In this clip, Dennis recounts a past encounter with Leonard Maltin, seasoned with references and a discussion of the McCarthy era of Hollywood history and the beginning of a discussion about character actors.
So I'm with Malden, and I'm a Brando freak, so I'm trying to pick his brain, but I don't want to look too needy, so I'm just trying to, lay a light cast out there and mend it upstream and get a nibble and have him tell me his Brando stories without me doing beating him over the head. He says, I say to him at one point, though, I say, I'm surprised that Bud Schulberg and Ilya Kazan, who I view as sort of the town criers of the hoi polloi, the proletariat movement in the country, I can't believe they name names, even if it's names that have already been named. It blows my mind. And Malden looked at me. I always remember this. And he said, well, Dennis, it's easy to judge, but you don't know how brave you'd be till they chain you to the radiator.
Wow.
It was like Orwellian, man. And I said, Carl, that image, it like clicked my mind about judging people through the prism of history when you don't know. It's very infrequently is there a Carl Foreman guy who says, hey, I'm not naming anybody. How's about I go live in London and avoid you idiots for a while, and then I'll come back and do Guns of Navarone or something. Right. But very infrequent, Kazan, you could tell Kazan wanted to be the director of his era, and indeed in many ways was more staged than movies, but it's tough to go up there, guys. He might never work again, you know what I mean? So it just reminded me, don't judge lest ye be judged.
Exactly. So every time I read a story or a book about that period, that witch hunt period, and there seemed to be no end of them, because there's so much to mine, so much material to mine, I ask myself, I shudder, and I ask myself, well, what would I have done? And I'm not the bravest guy out there.
He would have hidden behind my mother, is what he's trying to say.
I don't know about you, Leonard. I feel like I would have answered the call in Vietnam or stay on the Titanic or stuff like that. Only because knowing how guilty I am about little missteps with human beings, if I really did a screw-up where I betrayed karma and stuff like that, I would view the rest of my life like a Russian, in a Russian novel, some guy who's just haunted by it, and where it would eat me alive more than actually going down with a ship. I always read about that rich guy saying, my man and I will be in our finery having a cocktail. And I thought, could I do that? And I thought, well, I wouldn't want to, certainly, but I would have to, because I couldn't be Ismay dressing up as a woman and diving into the lifeboat. You know what I mean? It's like Clifton Webb in that great original Titanic.
Yeah. Alan Jocelyn is the one who puts a blanket over his head and pretends to be a woman in the lifeboat.
I can't believe he just Alan Jocelyn me.
You guys are the cutest. The two of you are the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Well, Clifton Webb.
Adorable.
There's nothing more sympathique than Clifton Webb at the end of what's the Tyrone Power? The Razor's Edge, where he's dying horribly in a huge chateau, and all that matters is he needs an invite to a party that's happening that he's not invited to. So he's going out the door. For him and his incredibly fragile set of criteria for what makes him a valid human being, he's not invited to the party of the season. And like the last guy who could care about that is Larry Darrell, and he comes in with a feigned invite and hands it to him on his deathbed. And the confluence of the man who looks for depth in his life and the man whose depth is so shallow, it just takes your breath away, stuff like that. And Clifton Webb's always been one of my favorite. Mr. Scoutmaster, he's so sweet in that movie.
With also starring George Foghorn Winslow.
Oh, that's who that was, yes, Foghorn Winslow.
That kid, he had I think what would be kind and accurate to say, a brief screen career.
Yeah, but kids should burn like a comet.
But it was notable.
Yes.
It was notable.
Listen, once a kid, I always think Jimmy Dean didn't need a fourth film if he wanted to be immortal. He could either have a fourth film or be immortal. And a kid can stay with you for like 40 years or anything. I haven't seen this kid since he was pre-puberic. Or you can just move on after a while. And then I have nicer Haley Joel, people like that.
Yeah.
Wow, they hit the ball hard when they were in there.
Yeah. I know. It's like at a certain point, I guess it's not. Maybe it's human nature, or it's just the natural order of things, to take some people for granted who've just always been there doing good work. In the era you just mentioned, Joel McCrea, I think was underappreciated. And when interviewed in later years, he always said that no one ever chose him first. It was because Cary Grant had said no. or Jimmy Stewart or Gary Cooper had said no.
You can reach out to Leonard Maltin on Twitter at Leonard Maltin. That's LeonardMaltin. Jesse Maltin at Jesse Maltin. That is JESSIEMALTIN. Dennis Miller at DENNIS, capital D, capital M, capital Z. And you can go to leonardmaltin.com for movie reviews and other good stuff. In the second position, Crystal Clear, the podcast by C. Clear. That is the letter C and the word or name clear. Its description reads, seeking clarity in life to make the most of my life. Crystal clear is my affirmation. And crystal is spelled CHRISTAL. Our clip is from an episode called Be My Guest, released October 22nd, 2018. Also listed as episode 74. In its description, it says, it was good to talk to a stranger that feels like an old friend. Jay is not a stranger, but podcasting allows you to have conversations with people that feel like great friends. Either way, here's one on growing with experience. And in this hope, Crystal discusses the adjustments one makes when one receives feedback on their shows, and guest Jay, who has been running the Pod Dealer Network for almost a year as of this recording, explores the anxieties of being the sole host of a show.
This is another thing that I realized I had no idea. Have you ever had someone listen to your show and maybe talk to you about the show? And they're like paraphrasing you, and you're like, I didn't say that. You're just like, I did not. No,
that's not what I said.
That's not what I said. And so, it's like, I realize that I'm talking and I'm saying what I'm saying, and I know where it's coming from. But someone else is listening and they hear it, and it means something totally different for them. And you're just like, that's beautiful, but that's not what I said, you know? And I just had to let it go and allow it to become whatever it becomes when someone else listens to it, you know? And I'm just amazed. And it's like, there's really nothing you can do about it, because we all perceive and understand differently, and there's nothing you can do about it but allow them to get what they get, you know? And it's like, even if you do think you're making valid points, because I know you said you don't kind of go into it like that. You're like just pleasantly surprised when it happens. But even if you did, it wouldn't matter, because the very thing that you thought was deep didn't, touch anyone. But the thing that you thought you were just, that was what was most impactful. So it's just like, you can never be certain with what's hitting who, how. So the podcasting, it's crazy for me. Half the time, I'm just like, I'm going to do this. And all the ones I felt like were just like crap shows got the most comments. And I'm just like, I'm going to quit trying to know when I'm doing well or when I'm doing bad. It doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I think that's another part where people, especially us who do solo shows, really need to have some type of roundtable discussion about the do's and don'ts and the anxiety that we feel doing a show by yourself, because like I said, you see the process from beginning to end. You spent your week or however long getting your topics together. You've been thinking of your talking points. You've been thinking about what time you're going to record. Everything, you check off all these other boxes, not to mention if you're a working adult or a family or whatever it is, you got to check off all the other boxes, go do your show. You got to make sure your mood is right. Your energy is good. You do the show, and then you're like, that show wasn't good. And the moment you're done recording it, you're picking the show apart without even putting it out. You put it out, and then, you get your plays. And then I think that's another reason, which I'm so glad that I'm having conversations with people about disabling their numbers or their plays. Because then you do this thing where you constantly watching the plays or looking at the plays where you're like, yeah, it should be. Yeah, I knew the show wasn't good. Because all that's doing is fortifying that thought in your head.
Right.
yeah, I put the show up 2 days ago and it's only got 25 plays. I knew the show wasn't that good. Or like that kind of thing. And like we don't need to be doing that anymore. I think in the realm of podcasting or anybody talking for a living, you're gonna have rough days. But it's just like you said. It's just like you said though too. Like you think this show was terrible, and then in a couple of days somebody will come and say like, "Hey man, this thing you said really touched me," or like, "Yo, I was having a crappy day, and then you said this thing about whatever, and it made me laugh. Man, I really appreciate that." Or, "Man, girl, you was doing this thing," or whatever it is that you do that people can feed on just to kind of get them through their day or take them out of a moment. The whole time you've been over here, flipping out about the show. Like, "Oh, man, I think I'm going to go back and delete that episode, or I'm going to take it down," or like whatever it is. And you, like you said, you don't know what they're getting from it. I mean, some people really do need it, or they feel like it's a part of their routine. And it's just, I think we are our biggest critics.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I think solo host podcasters don't talk about. Even if you're a solo hosted show that has like a rotation of guests or like new guests every week, I think even that in itself is stressful. You're trying to find somebody that's a good fit, all of that stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of things that we don't necessarily talk about because in the end, it's like the show needs to get made and it needs to get put out.
Right.
You can reach out to Crystal Clear on Twitter at the Crystal Clear. That is capital TH, capital CHRISTAL, capital CLEAR. Now, Jay, spelled JAE, Twitter account was not mentioned in the episode I listened to, unless I missed it completely. But Jay hosts a soundcast called Just Say Words Podcast, which can be found at the Pod Dealer Network, www.poddealers.net. That is PODDEALERS.net. You can also find him on Instagram at Just Say Words Pod, JUSTSAYWORDSPOD. And Crystal Clear can be found on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Music. Our third soundcast clip for the evening is a soundcast called Master Manual by Spencer Crittenden and Cohen Edenfield. Its description reads, Harmontown's Dungeon Master to the Stars, Spencer Crittenden, and game designer Cohen Edenfield discuss the finer points of leading a role-playing session in this surprisingly accessible advice show. It's from the first episode, which is called Boardwalk Vampire. It was released August 22nd, 2018. And the episode description reads, this inaugural episode of Master Manual, Spencer and Cohen answer questions and riff upon a fresh new take on vampires. We get better at this, I promise. Yes, the segment is called Alternate Monster Lore, and here's a chunk of it.
So vampires is the monster. We're going to construct alternate monster lore. Just as some background, in D&D, you'll find in the player's handbook, they explain in the races section that races are different in different like campaign settings in different universes. So it's like in Faerun, the elves are like this, but in Dragonlance, the elves are like this.
But they can also basically be whatever you want because you're playing your shard. Mm-hmm. You're playing your like facet of this reality.
Right. That's the point, is that it's it's not the same. You're not playing in the same world. You're playing in like an alternate reality or whatever. Like, and then what, in Dark Sun, gnomes are cannibals or something like that?
Yeah, and like elves are like crazy desert.
Yeah. And so like, that's, you don't think of an elf being a crazy desert man, but why not? Yeah. So that's what we're going to try and do with vampires.
Vampires. We're going to be the first people to really tweak. We're going to take that classic monster and give him a modern twist.
So you said first people, and that's interesting because that's like Native American. So, but before we really, I'll just say that, and then before we really break
let's
into,
not do that.
Okay, we don't have to.
Let's maybe do something else.
I mean, the thing that your mind has to be thinking to make you say that is very worrying to me. But I'll just roll with it. So what we should start with what is associated with this stuff. Like, if we're talking about goblins, like what's a normal goblin, so we can diverge from it. So normal vampires are,
let's think a classic cross. We got
garlic crosses, light sensitivity,
immortality. I think like even like deeper than that, we got immortality,
mm-hmm.
parasitism,
right,
and
blood,
strength.
Mm-hmm.
I think those would be blood, and I think like that, like everything else. I feel like aversion to daylight.
Yeah,
through some.
That's probably more important than the blood, I would say. I mean, not necessarily, because there's psychic vampires and stuff.
Those are.
But it's like those people sometimes don't like the sun, and sometimes they're fine with it.
That's okay. So what's our deal with our vampires? Who's
but what else? What else is there? Their skin burns, but that's sunlight sensitivity.
Yeah.
Garlic,
silver,
crosses. Silver's a good one.
Silver,
mirrors
can't cross running water.
In D&D, they turn into mist.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I feel like you don't see that a lot in modern.
It makes them great villains because
they just fucking leave.
Yeah, you can't contain a mist. They're usually, this isn't like specific, but they're usually associated with like aristocracy and kind of like high society, like charisma. They're usually charismatic.
Interesting thing is that in the original Dracula, that was a surprise. That was the twist,
right?
Of the story is that vampires were this like before that we're like they're these like woods monsters. Mm-hmm. They're like these like closer to like zombies. They're like kind of mindless. And then it was like, this fancy lord is actually, or this count, I suppose,
right?
Is actually a Dracula. Or, I mean, it
he's
was obvious
he's one of these Draculas.
I think Dracula as a noun is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if our vampires are? God, I really shouldn't have picked vampires. There's so many things. There's so many.
Well, we would have had a slam dunk if we made them first peoples, but let's move on from that.
Okay.
No, it's
what if? Okay.
My first instinct was water.
Beach vampires.
Yeah, it was like water. So what are they not like if they can be
still
at the beach?
Sun.
So they're night beaches. They surf in the night.
Yeah, they surf. They surf. They can't cross running water, but they can enjoy the sea. They bury themselves deep in the dunes.
They surf because that's the only way they can cross water.
Yeah, that's the only way. That's it. And they're super good at it because they're so light.
Yeah, they're light and they're just dexterous. Okay, this is a good start.
Yeah.
Okay, beach vampires.
And during the day, they bury themselves deep in the dunes, like sea turtles and crabs and stuff.
Right.
When they make someone, or like when they make a new vampire, they bury you like. And you have to crawl to the. You know what? They make a bunch at once all together.
Right. They pile you all in the thing.
They bury you, and it's whoever gets to the sea before the sun rises, and they can breathe water because they don't breathe. They can stay underwater.
And more details get hammered out. You can reach Spencer Crittenden on Twitter at @TheSixler. That is capital TheSixler. Cohen Edenfield at Skullmandible. It is SKULLMANDIBLE. And you can reach out to the show on Twitter at Master Manual Pod. MasterManualPod. Master Manual is available on iTunes, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, and Simplecast, which is where the show website is at mastermanual.pod, simplecast.fm. That is mastermanualpod.simplecast.fm.
This episode of Succotash is sponsored in part by TrumPoetry.com, a chronological ode to a fake muse. Enjoy a rhyming spin on the news of the day every day, as well as over 500 archived daily verses thoroughly covering the White House, America, and the world with a sticky caramel coating that's impossible to remove. That's TRUMPoetry.com. Everything you need to know in rhyming couplets. TrumPoetry.com.
Alrighty then. Been a while since I've read one of these. From December 5th, 2018, number 778. At the end of this one, there are quotes. I will be using the sound to indicate quotes. No prison time. 3 words that ring so sweetly. To he of long-term insights gained firsthand. For names and dates laid at Muller's command. And what exactly does this tie up neatly? From sifting lies to pleas to dots connected, who gains, who loses from these revelations? Regardless, will they change the fate of nations? Should vote suppression become resurrected? But I digress. This Russian agent's song brings others from the woodwork to the chorus. How substantive their melodies, how porous. And will we knew if Trump knew all along? The special counsel probes election steal from lock her up to, hey, let's make a deal. This one's from a little bit earlier in the month, December 2nd, 2018. Number 781. Ah, Vlad and the Saudi crown prince, from their hands bloods of rivals they rinse. Their G20 embrace caused our prez to lose face, and we haven't seen Trump smile since.
Right? Right.
So I mentioned earlier that the High Content podcast would be clipped on this episode, and it's because I recently was a guest, so I thought I'd play that for you here. This is from episode 59, High Content Live. It was released November 19th, 2018. It is a recording of the very first live episode of High Content on November 13th, 2018 at the Savage Henry Comedy Club in Eureka, California. So after local comedians Jessica Grant and Nando Molina gave interviews, the hosts of High Content unexpectedly invited me up on stage for a segment. There's a bit that I clipped off for you from the Would You Rather portion of the interview.
I want to ask you a Would You Rather question.
Alrighty, shoot.
Okay, would you rather have all bad things anyone thinks about you be physically edited into your Wikipedia entry, or have a talking snake for a penis that spoils movies and TV shows?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm so glad you asked. A talking snake that spoils movies as a penis. So it's like
a talking snake so your penis is a snake.
Just kind of comes out and
a talking snake.
The butler did it.
Yeah, anytime you're watching a movie or a TV series, it just comes out and just tells you how it ends and spoils it for you.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'd have to go with the first choice. I hate spoilers.
Yeah, I can't think of any other reason in that one except the spoilers, being a bad thing. You know, the talking snake penis. I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, you could do you could be like a ventriloquist thing. There are advantages to having a talking snake penis, certainly.
There are people living their life right now with a talking snake penis, and they're doing just fine. They just don't have to get spoilers from it.
Lawyers, doctors, NASA calligraphists.
I just thought of a hack. You could carry around feeder mice all the time. So like you're going to the movie theater, you got your thing of popcorn, you got your thing of feeder mice, it starts to come out, and you just go, yep, pop a feeder mouse into the snake, and then nobody has to deal with that.
Oh man!
You ever seen feeder mice? Did anybody
like
ever have
like pinkies, like little pink ones?
Yeah. So one of those things. I know it's not a pleasant thought.
Oh no! Killing animals. How's the mood now?
Welcome to the High Content Podcast, Killing Animals.
Okay, and I want to ask you the same one I asked Nando. Would you rather have to always wear roller skates or only exist in people's dreams?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough.
And again, being in people's dreams and like being like in like a dreamland, you can do whatever you want, but also whoever's dream you're in, they can do whatever they want to you. And I believe it would cause you physical harm. They can't kill you though, but like it'll hurt.
Oh, okay. It would. Oh, that's interesting. So it would hurt, but it couldn't kill me.
And I'm upgrading the roller skates to roller blades that light up.
So I'm just like I'm just somebody's punching bag in everybody's dreams, basically.
If that's what
if that's what they want.
Yeah. If that's what I choose on that one. What was the other one? It was
you're going everywhere in roller skates.
Everywhere roller skates. Yeah. God.
And they light up.
And they light up.
They light up.
Well, then I'm sold. Everywhere roller skate. I have dreams where I'm on roller skates. Well, not real ones, but where I can just push myself across the floor. It's kind of like flying at very low altitude. It's fun though, until I wake up and I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But now you can. We've given you the option.
Well, yeah, but now I can't. Yeah. And so that way I can do it in real life, but not have to do it in a dream. Of course, everywhere with roller skates, like Roller Girl from Boogie Nights, never takes her skates off. So would they just become a fixture? Could I take them off to clean my feet?
We're not going to worry about the hygiene.
Okay.
That's beyond the scope. We're going to assume it's horrible and that it's a bad situation on the inside of there. But no one wants to talk about it.
No, that's true. Nobody wants to talk about it. Kids, beware roller skates.
So you can reach the other comedians featured on the program at Jessica Grant, on Instagram at Jessica1, that is JESSICA NUMBER, and the numeral 1. And on Twitter, she can be reached at JE, the numeral 5, the numeral 5, ICA NUMBER, the numeral 1. Nando Molina can be reached on Twitter at Nandoman5150, that is at capital NANDOMAN, numeral 5, numeral 1, numeral 5, numeral 0. Iraj Lopez can be reached on Twitter at Iraj Lopez, that is IRAJLOPEZ. Joe Barati can be reached on Instagram at DJ Brony, DJBRONI, and the High Content Podcast can be found at High Content Pod, HIGHCONTENPOD, on Twitter and Instagram. All right, the next clip for the evening is from a show called Unstructured by Eric Hunley. Its description reads, Unstructured is a chat with people who are changing the world around them through teaching, creating, or just living as an example. And when meeting folks, we can learn from each other, be inspired, and maybe even make a new friend together. From authors to documentary filmmakers and ultra runners to innovation experts, we look at what makes people think, move, and thrive and persevere. Our clip tonight is from episode 84 featuring the original voice of Siri, Susan Bennett, released October 25th, 2018. Its description reads, We have all heard her, at least in the U.S., but may not recognize her when we meet her. Susan Bennett is an accomplished voice actor who wound up being perhaps the most heard voice in the world. In this clip, Susan Bennett describes the recording process that went into making the original voice of Siri.
From what I understand, you spent a lot of time doing really a task that would be just pure drudgery. Can you describe that all?
Well, the recordings that I did, which I actually did not do for Apple, I did for a third party, a company called Nuance. Right. And the recordings that I did were called IVR recordings, standing for Interactive Voice Response. And the recordings, these types of recordings are used for applications like, Siri, Alexa, Cortana, etc., and GPS systems as well, and other applications like that. So we did the recordings, and afterwards, computers and technicians went into the recordings and extracted sounds, reformed them into new phrases and sentences, and these are what ended up on our devices. So when people ask me, did you have to read the whole dictionary? Or no, I read thousands and thousands of these crazy sentences that were created just for sound. And so they could get all of the sound combinations in the language. So the sentences we read really made very little sense. They were sentences like, cow hoist in the tub hut today. Say schist fresh issue today. Militia oi hallucinate, buckra okra ooze. So, it was pretty crazy. I'd say the first 50 or 100 sentences were kind of fun and kind of challenging, and then it was really pretty tedious.
It's like a hooked on nerd phonics.
Exactly.
Wow. And now, okay, from my understanding, you did this like for almost a full month, like 4 hours a day or something?
Yes, for the initial work that I did that ultimately became the voice of Siri was done in July 2005. And I recorded 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I really didn't have much voice left or much energy left for too much else because it was very, it's different. I know DJs work for 4 or 5 hours at a time, but they take breaks. And of course I took some breaks, but we had to read everything in almost a monotone, and it had to be read exactly the same, every phrase and sentence. And so that's what made it tedious and difficult on the vocal cords because, when we talk naturally, we use our voice, we go up and down with the pitch and everything. But for these sentences, they had to be read, in very, very much the same way so that when they extracted the sounds, they would all be sort of similar.
Well, ironically, a little bit of your attitude did sneak through, though.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of the magic of the voice. Is there's just a touch of snark.
Absolutely. The very first time I spoke to Siri, I said, "Hi, Siri, what are you doing?" And she very disgustedly answered, "I'm talking to you."
That cracks me up.
Yeah.
Now, it has to be kind of a mixed blessing for you because I've heard a bunch of interviews with you. I have a tendency to obsessively research, and you're asked the same things over and over, but it's kind of a weird thing because you're in everybody's head. How does that feel being on both sides of the celebrity?
Well, it was very weird at first because the fact that I was the voice of Siri was a surprise to me. And I've talked to other original Siri voices. I was the first English voice worldwide, but then others came up very quickly, speaking other languages and with iPhones going into different countries. We all had similar experiences, which the experience was that we were doing all these recordings that we thought were sort of generic recordings for phone systems. And, even though scientists and researchers had been working on artificial intelligence for decades by that time, most of us, just normal lay people, weren't aware or had any idea that we were getting close to coming up with something like Siri. She was, really basically the first public manifestation of AI, and certainly the first concatenated voice. Now, concatenated means, that's the process that I described earlier of how they take sounds out of one sentence and then make another one out of them. And she was the first concatenated voice that sounded human, and you could interact with her, and she had a personality and a sense of humor. I mean, she was really amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Susan's web links are listed as susancbennett.com. That is susancbennett.com. On Twitter, she can be reached at Seriously Susan. That is capital SIRIOUSLY, capital SUSAN. That is the same extension that can be reached on Facebook. And Unstructured Pod can be found on the web at unstructuredpod.com, which is UNSTRUCTUREDPOD.com. On Twitter at unstructuredp, UNSTRUCTUREDP, which is the same for Facebook and Instagram. And there's a Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/unstructured, UNSTRUCTURED. Next up, Shank by Sarah Weinshank. As description reads, comedian Sarah Weinshank interviews comedians, musicians, and artists living in LA. Topics include food, fashion, cannabis, and comedy. This episode was called Mango Jewel Pods, Snail Essence, and Feet Pics with comedian Brandon Wardell. It was released November 14th, 2018. In it, comedian Sarah Weinshank sits down with comedian Brandon Wardell. They talk everything from jewel pods to feet pics, as promised in the episode name. And in this clip, they talk a bit about fashion before speculating what life is like when you're a gamer.
You're wearing a Batman shirt. Is this like a vintage Batman
It's a vintage Batman shirt. It's pink.
Where did you get it?
At round 2.
Okay.
On Melrose. Yeah. Classic. Do you go there sometimes?
I know of it. I don't go in there because they have a lot of.
Is this all vintage? Or are you wearing an all vintage fit?
No, only the skirt is vintage.
Really?
Actually,
where's the top from?
Actually, the shirt's vintage too, but I don't know how old it is. I think it might be like a costume shirt. I feel like it's like Madeline, that kid's book. I feel like it's like it has the tag looks like it's.
You always dress very well every time I see you.
Thank you. You too. You're always in something very fun and bright. You like a bright color. Huh?
I like a bright color. I like a pop.
You like a pop. What kind of shoes do you have? Hold on, let's see.
I'm wearing these Adidas Hue, it's the fucking the Pharrell.
Oh, the
Adidas
Pharrell
Hue.
Adidas.
Here,
Yeah, let's see that.
There we go.
Oh, that's fun. It's kind of like tweed looking, and there's all different colors kind of woven in. That's cool. So you're into fashion to some degree?
I love it.
You do.
I love fashion. I love fit pics. I love
outfits of the day. Just
wearing
out there.
clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are some of your favorite places to get clothes?
I don't. I guess mostly vintage shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you fucks with Buffalo Exchange?
Yeah, I've given clothes to them.
Oh, you sell to Buffalo.
I've done both. I've bought and sold. And you go in
it's humiliating.
And you think oh man, I've got gems.
You're like, I got they want
yeah.
for sure.
I've come here with I've fucking made this business. You know?
Yeah.
I've come in here with so many items I'm about to walk out here rich, and then they give you like $12.
They give you $12.
They
or
choose
they
like
say,
one thing, or like
yeah. Like you can have $12, or if you want to do a trade, you can have $24 at Buffalo, and you're like, I don't want anyone else's ugly shit.
Yeah, just give me that cash.
Yeah, it always seems like it's going to be more lucrative than it really is. It's never.
Right.
It's always humiliating too.
It's like that at any business that operates that way, you know. GameStop has fucked over so many teens. Like that's a business built on
exploitation,
exploiting children. Yeah, you go in and you like they do the same shit.
So, but this is my question. So you're like a big gamer.
I'm not.
You're not?
No.
You.
I'm a gamer ally.
Okay, you're just the voice.
I have
for
gamer friends.
Okay.
I have a lot of gamer friends. I have friends that like have Twitch streams, but I'm not gaming myself. I've never played Fortnite in my life.
Me either. I'd like to keep it that way, honestly.
I could do it maybe. I just want to. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to be a gamer unless I'm like rich.
Rich from gaming?
No, I mean like rich from just like
you're.
Yeah, like
set.
I just feel like I want to get some more shit done before I become a gamer.
I get that. Like you'll game when you retire.
Yeah.
That makes sense though, because it's like it's such a time suck.
That's like the best time to game, I think.
Yeah, when you're retired.
Post-retirement?
You're just fucking up young kids on Fortnite.
Yeah, you're just, you're talking to some 10-year-old white kid that's calling you the N-word.
Yeah, and you're just, you out there, everyone else is at work, you're sleeping until 2, just gaming.
Hard.
Stakes aren't high,
Yeah.
Your wife's left.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, whoa, sorry.
Did my wife leave in this scenario?
I mean, I feel like if you're
What
like
if I have a gamer wife? What if I married a gamer girl?
What if you married like a young, cool, like cosplay, like gamer girl, and your retirement is just full of that?
That would be cool.
That'd be so interesting, right?
Yeah.
You can reach Brandon Wardell on Twitter at Brandon Wardell, BrandonWardell, and at BS Wardell on Instagram, BSWARDELL. You can follow Sarah Weinshank at Princess Shank, which is PRINCESSSHENK. And if you go to iTunes and click where it says show website, it'll take you to www.blueberry.com /shank /. That is www.BLUBRRY.com /SHENK /. And finally tonight from our clip department, Weird Adults with Little Esther by Esther Pavitsky and Starburns Audio. Its description reads, Little Esther Pavitsky finds out what makes her fellow comedian friends both weird and adult, with an irreplaceable quirk and charm not found anywhere else. This clip is from an episode released March 2nd, 2018, called Nick Weiger Live, in which Esther returns for a very special limited edition episode of Weird Adults. We're back, baby, live from the Punchline at the San Francisco Sketch Fest. Nick Weiger of Doughboys fame joins Little Esther for a conversation. They talk food. That's all you. ... I assume that's that. I don't know that that's the inflection for it. It literally says, that's all you. Then there's a space and then 3 dots. So it could be that's all you get. That's all you. Or just that's all you. But why put the ellipses? Anyway. In this clip, host Esther Pavitsky mentions she has jaw pain, and that leads to a conversation about strange interactions with a few medical professionals.
I have jaw pain, so I don't chew gum anymore, but I definitely did. And now when I chew it, I almost get like high. Like it's so fun. Anyway.
What's your jaw pain?
I have this really bad overbite. I can see. I'm fixing it with Invisalign right now, but
okay.
Yeah, but
it doesn't look that bad.
It's getting a lot better. I've been in my trays for over a year. Wait, why is that funny?
It's a funny phrase.
But yeah, it's fixing them. But yeah, like I think also I'm a stressor, and I just have jaw pain, and I don't know. Are you a stressor? You seem. I know you have internalized panic.
Yeah.
But
I can get stressed. I will say that I have a night guard.
Yeah.
And because I clench when I'm sleeping I grind.
Yeah.
And so the thing that happens is that when I wake up, my jaw is always dislocated. So first thing in the morning, because I just been like clenching, like I'm squeezing my teeth real tight right now, just like that, like all night. And then so I wake up and it's just out of the socket. And so I have to like, the first thing I do is I have to pop it back in every morning.
That is so insane. You're basically telling me every morning you wake up and you like put your face together.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. It's like my first order of business before I do anything.
That is so alien-like. I just don't. Wow, we're putting all the pieces together today. So much.
It's also, too, it's like the kind of thing where just like I've gotten used to, and I was like, maybe I should talk to a doctor or dentist about this, but it's not really I feel like it's the kind of thing I would tell them, and they'd be like, well, if it's working for you, just keep doing that, right? Because like what I'm not going to get elective surgery over this. It's not that big of a deal.
I hate when doctors say that. That makes me want to punch them in the face. Like, what? If it's working for you, if I'm telling the doctor about it, it's not like obviously there's a problem. I don't know. I have a lot of doctor enemies in Los Angeles, so I'm gonna have to relocate very soon.
You're like Spider-Man.
What?
He's got doctor enemies.
He does? Oh yeah.
In his rogues gallery.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I once sent my gynecologist a link to my stand-up so that I could get, like, special treatment, but...
Jesus.
Because I feel like it's so competitive in LA. Like, you don't know how to, like, get the edge with your doctor and, like, have them notice you and respond to your email. So I was like, oh, maybe she'll, like, see my stand-up and, like, put a face... put a 5-minute set to a name, and it just didn't really work out that well.
I had years ago, this is like 8 jobs ago, back when I was working in the video game industry, and I had, my insurance took me to this Greek married couple who were my dentists for like a year. And one time I had the male dentist, the husband, they're this Greek couple like in their 60s who always like hurt me. Like every time I was like, getting dental work from done by them, it was always very painful. But the guy was examining me, and he was like just making small talk, like, "What do you do for a living?" And I had like dental shit in my mouth, and so I was trying to say video games. I said video games, and I think he just heard the video part, and so he like leaned in, like checked over his shoulders, leaning close, and he was like porno movies, like he was like. I don't know why he leapt to that, but he was like very, very hopeful that that's what my profession was. I guess either starring in or directing pornography.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's weird. I also too. I had an optometrist once. This was another very strange.
Where could this go?
Okay, so this was a female optometrist. She was very, very nice, and she always gave me good care. But she was examining me once. And like leaning in like very close with some instrument and like examining my eyeballs. And she was like, like an inch, like as close as this mic is to my mouth. Like she was there, like examining me. And she just whispers, "Kiss me."
No, no.
And I just went like, did nothing. I just took no action. And then she like waited 1 second and then like recoiled and was like, "Okay, all right, your eye looks good there." And like just like carried on the exam. Like she hadn't said it, did not address it.
No.
Yeah.
No
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way. Open with this.
You can reach Esther Pavitsky on Twitter at Little Esther, that is LittleEsther. Nick Weiger at Nick Weiger, NickWiger, and Esther Pavitsky's newsletter can be read at tinyletter.com/Little Esther. That is tinyletter.com/LittleEsther. You can find the show on Stitcher, Player FM, and Podbean. And if you click the website link on iTunes, it takes you right back to iTunes. And before we go, our second and final burst of durst for the evening. This one is from November 25th. It is called Monetizing the White House. in which our intrepid correspondent offers up a few suggestions to fill that darn deficit hole.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words about money. Something nobody has enough of, you, me, and now, apparently, America. Mitch McConnell says we have to cut entitlements because of our huge deficit. What he fails to mention is he's sort of responsible for the deficit with the $1.5 trillion corporate tax cut he pushed through earlier this year. Of course, now with the Democratic House, you get a better chance of a wounded sheep taking down a pride of lions and getting them to sign off on cuts to Social Security or Medicare. But hey, don't we have a president who's really good at monetizing things? After all, he ran casinos and wineries and universities and made plenty of money on them, right? Someone who knows the value of the presidency. He already presented a Medal of Honor to the wife of his largest donor. If rich people are willing to drop big bucks to get a hunk of metal on a ribbon, we should encourage this behavior. Besides, there's plenty of ways to make money off this presidency. You could offer a personalized 1-hour beauty makeover from the First Lady. Presidential son Eric will let you beat him in tic-tac-toe. At the next Passover, Ivanka Trump Kushner will attend your Seder. A soothing back rub from Mike Pence. Warning, cannot be performed in the presence of a woman. Round of golf with the leader of the free world. Don Jr. will have lunch with you at the same restaurant table he did with Natalia Veselnitskaya. You can listen in on the tape of Jamal Khashoggi being killed. Limited edition of autographed photos of Vladimir Putin riding a horse, shirtless. Your very own congressional seat. Of course, that's only for residents of red states. The President of the United States will mention you in a tweet. And if you want the President of the United States to mention you favorably in a tweet, it'll just cost a little more. For Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast, I'm Will Durst.
Go to willdurst.com to find the Will Durst Journal, which is comedy for people who read or know someone who does. You can also find all his dates and deets there. And you can follow him on Twitter at Will Durst, WILLDURST. And there you have it. Or rather, here you had it. It being another Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast Clips edition that is still underway now that I think about it. So here you are, having it. Another edition of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for retweeting us when you see our links, and thank you for visiting www.succotashshow.com, clicking the Amazon banner right near the top of the page, and shopping, as you normally would, because when you do that, Amazon cuts us a small portion of that, which goes to our server costs. If you haven't done that before, it's perfectly fine, because we love you anyway, if you are listening. We also love those who don't listen, as long as they're also reasonably good people. And by we, I mean me. I need to clarify that, because I don't wish to speak on behalf of other people when it pertains to love. It's not a healthy habit to get into. And as an expectant father, I need to maintain my health in as many areas as I can. So, anyway, thank you for listening. And if you like us a little, you might tell your friends about us, which is one of the best ways of helping us out, and what we mean when we gently urge you to please pass the succotash.
You've been listening to Succotash Clips, the Comedy Soundcast Soundcast with your host, Tyson Saner. Brought to you by Henderson's Pants and... Imagine your company's name right here. Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher Smart Radio, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Dunder, on Blitzen, on iHeartRadio, and on a laughable app. You can hear us streaming and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Succotash Show. Email us at TysonSaner@succotashshow.com. Or call into the Succotash hotline at our toll call number, 818-921-7212.
That number again is 818-921-7212.
You can also upload clips from your favorite comedy soundcasts directly to us by using our direct upload link at hightail.com/u/succotash. Production of Succotash is overseen by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P Sausalito, hosted by Tyson Saner. Our executive producer is Marc Hershon. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is Kenny Durges. Until next time, I'm your loyal booth announcer, Bill Haywatt, reminding you to please pass the Succotash. Goodbye.